Pisces, this is your week ahead astrology forecast from Astrology Motivation by Born Without Boundaries. Yes, guys, this is where you're going to get your weekly astrology breakdown for Pisces specifically. We're going to go through the major planetary aspects and transits of the week and how they impact your natal sun. Now, you'll be able to know where your natal sun is based on your natal chart, and you can get that for free. Just search online free natal chart, and there's so many websites that do it. You'll need your date of birth, time of birth, and your location of birth. Put in that information and it'll pop it out in like a few seconds. Not kidding. And you'll see that your sun sits on one of the 30 degrees that are in the zodiac sign of Pisces. Now, if your natal sun sits between 0 and 9 degrees Pisces, I'm going to refer to you as Pisces 1 because your natal sun is in the first decan or group of 10 degrees of Pisces. If your natal sun sits somewhere between 10 and 19 degrees, I'm going to refer to you as Pisces 2 because you are in the second your natal sun is in the second decan of Pisces. And if your natal sun falls between 20 and 29 degrees Pisces, then you are Pisces 3. Now, if you don't have this information and don't want to get it right away, I will still definitely give you estimated dates, but they have a lot of wiggle room because they're really just rough estimates, just an FYI. So let's start off really broadly, guys, because there's a lot going on, even though there's no major transits this week, but there is a lot going on in terms of aspects. And I'm just going to say this, overall, it's not the best week for productivity. So we're going to start really broad with the stuff that's going to impact everyone. And then we're going to narrow that down and zoom in on the stuff that particularly affects Pisces, and then we're going to go into the details into your natal suns. All right, so stick around for the entire reading because I'm sure, especially if you're an astrology buff, it'll interest you. But this week in particular, there are a lot of transits between the decans. So it's not that the planets are transiting from one zodiac sign to another, but many are transiting between the decans. So what impacts you in the beginning of the week may be a totally different thing by the end of the week. Or if something's not impacting you at all in the beginning of the week, it could be transiting enough or moving enough so that by the end of the week, it does impact your natal sun. So stick around. So broadly speaking, this is a pretty tense week when it comes to aspects. Now, aspects are what? They're angles. That's what they are. They're angles that the planets form in this geometrical sphere that they circle around in the sky. And this is how astrologers understand how energies are going to impact each other. So we know that Mercury is in retrograde. It starts out still conjunct to Uranus, but only for the first couple of days because Mercury moves pretty fast, whether it's going retrograde or whether it's going direct. And so even though Mercury starts at 14 degrees Taurus this week, it'll end up around almost 10 degrees Taurus. So it's actually reverting back into the first decan of Taurus by the end of this week. So it moves pretty quickly, but there's sort of an amplification here. And by the end of this week, even though Mercury begins amplified by Uranus, which is conjunct in the first couple of days, it's conjunct to Mercury retrograde. By the end of this week, Mercury will be conjunct to the Sun at 11 degrees Taurus. So Mercury and the Sun are at 11 degrees Taurus. You hear what I'm saying? This is quite an eye-opening, maybe revelation, maybe something that is brought to light during a Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrogrades do have a way of pointing out what is not working because if you play it backwards, it sounds all kinds of cracked up and crinkled. And so there are a lot of revelations that's coming here, something brought to light, maybe something that has been missed. And it's definitely something we need to pay attention to. Once again, not the best week for productivity. We also have, Pluto square Jupiter, which is a very intense aspect that will impact everyone. The intensity here is building a great deal of almost ruthlessness and fortitude when it comes to making progress and moving forward, almost to the point of maybe being too aggressive, overly assertive, or just overly insistent. So I think in other configurations, it might not be so bad, but the fact that there's a lot of other stuff going around, including the Mercury retrograde, this is just not a time for that energy to work out very well at all. So there is a desire or it's like we're prepped to change. We want things maybe too badly. We want to push too much, take control over things too quickly or too completely, and then everything is falling apart around us, out of our control. Not necessarily the best climate for actual progress, once again. We also have a very frustrating aspect, which is Neptune square to Venus. Hold on a second. I wrote this down. It's all written down here. Saturn is quincunx to Mars. Just kind of shitty rules that are blocking progress and momentum, right? Or obligations, laws, authority just want to block progress and momentum in any way. Or just frustrating trying to push forward or trying to get any momentum at all. We also have Neptune now, because Mars is in Cancer. It could be extra sensitive and take things extra personally, or become extra defensive, especially if it's interrupting something that you want to do for your family. So frustration there. And then we also have Neptune square Venus by Saturday the 29th. And all I put down, you can see in my notes, I wrote, oh Lord, because we all got to pray. Neptune square Venus actually bothers me more than Jupiter square Pluto, and that just be maybe because I'm crazy. But the fact that they're both going on in the same week, this is kind of crap. You know, it's Neptune square Venus is like self-deception. I wrote this down. I said, watch out for shitty relationships and crappy offers, people trying to sell you tonic water, especially with Mercury in retrograde. Just not a great time for sincerity or clarity. There is a Neptune is also semi-square to Mercury retrograde, and it will be semi-square to the Mercury retrograde conjunct the Sun. I put it this way, and this is the best way I could understand it. This isn't great. It's stubbornness, holding on to the past that can block understanding of the self. Think of Al Bundy, the character Al Bundy, or maybe a more classic character, Willie Loman. People who get lost in their past accomplishments and stay in this daydream that they're still going on. They're not. And yet it's kind of blocking you from any kind of momentum or moving forward. So there's just a lot of, and I think I said this around the new moon, Pluto is going to be drudging up the crap. It's going to be drudging up the crap that we've held on to. And that's this week. This week is, look what you've held on to. It's holding you back. It's going to embarrass you, probably. And ultimately could make you more susceptible for some pretty intensely horrible decisions. So just please know that this is not the greatest time to push. This is not a great time to respond to those texts from exes. This is not a great time for any real progress forward, except understanding who the hell you are and what you still need to work on. Because while Jupiter is square to Pluto, it is also, just like Pluto, Jupiter is also conjunct the North Node and in opposition to the South Node, which means it is ready to push a life change. It is ready to get rid of the gunk. And maybe in that way, the Jupiter square Pluto is like a celestial roto-rooter at this point, whereas there's a lot of clogs, and that's the only kind of energy that could just jam through it and blast through it. And I think that that's actually very helpful energy. I think the support from the nodes is really what's changing my mind with just how progressive it can end up being. But for now, it's kind of like putting Drano down your drain. You gotta kind of wait for this week and then pour the hot water down. There's sort of like a roto-rooter effect happening, especially because of that Jupiter square Pluto. Now, doubling down into specifically what impacts all Pisces and what you guys should be looking for. Jupiter and Neptune are two planets that you always need to keep track of, because Neptune is your modern ruler and Jupiter is your traditional ruler, and they both impact you, and they both have a great deal to do with faith and broadening your mind and soul. Now, Neptune is more soul-based and Jupiter is more mind-based or experience-based, but both of them are linked to letting you grow and become a larger, better version of yourself. Jupiter, like I said, is still in Aries. It's in the last degrees of Aries, about 25 degrees Aries this week, and then it's square to Pluto. It's in a loose conjunction with the North Node. It's about 8 degrees away from the North Node. To me, that's a very loose conjunction, and it's also therefore in opposition to the South Node. To me, that energy, because of how it interacts with the nodes, game changers, shifts in vitality, shifts in how you want to grow, where you want to put your energy, and what your future will look like. This is kind of like that maturation process where you start to turn the corner on your life, and the things that you used to fight hard for, you don't want to fight hard for anymore, and new things are going to start to interest you. But we got that Pluto, Jupiter square Pluto rotor-rooter to clear out the old crap that's blocking us from moving forward. So, okay, this is going to be an intensely frustrating week, but it could be personally productive. And then we have Neptune. Neptune on Wednesday. So, I'm sorry, this week goes from April 26th to May 2nd, 2020. I did write that in the description. No, I did write that in. It is the title of the video. It's also on the thumbnail. So it is 4/26 or Wednesday that the moon will conjunct Mars in Cancer. This is very moody and emotional energy, and because it's trine Neptune, I feel like there's a huge possibility to get lost in daydreams. Of course, sometimes it can bring healing when you know what triggers you, it almost could be a purge in some way, or just settling down, or some harmony that has to be had, a healing of difficult emotions that come and pop up. So maybe at least it'll bring it forward to your consciousness, but this will especially impact those of you in Pisces 3, because Neptune is conjunct to your natal sun, which means your natal sun is also going to be trine to this moon conjunct Mars. So there is a sense of healing or kind of comprehension, like understanding, maybe even just maybe it brought to your attention what triggers you, what matters to you, especially if something, but it'll happen through tension. So it's like maybe you won't even know how much you care about something until something else clashes with it, and then there's just oh my God, now I can understand why this matters so much to me, or that it matters so much to me. But ultimately, throughout the week, Neptune is going to be semi-square to Mercury retrograde and semi-square to the Sun. So holding on to the past, and that basically blocking you from actually moving on to the future, because you're insisting on holding on to that triumph from 10 years ago, when in reality it doesn't matter anymore. It's not consequential. It's not even relevant, and that could be very difficult to let go of. But you'd be confronted with that this week. And then we have, as of Saturday, 4/29, Neptune is going to be square to Venus. I said, oh Lord, for those of you who are in Pisces 3, that's specifically going to impact you as well, because that means your natal suns conjunct to Neptune are also square to Venus. What does this mean? It just means that you're just more vulnerable in terms of how you feel about your self-worth. You're more easily fooled or easily tricked or easily, a hood pulled over your face, especially when it comes to people who are flirting with you. You know, if people treating you with too much precious attention are probably trying to manipulate you in some way. I would not, for you guys especially, answer any texts from exes. That would be one of the stupidest things you could do. Just an FYI, but a lot of that will start to come up. And especially if you've been nostalgic about the past, it might be easy to take advantage of you. And then we have, or easy for you to convince yourself that backward is a way to go, and it's not. We have by 4/29 to all the way through the 5th of May. Watch out, I said, because this is going to last for a while. Watch out, shitty relationships and crappy offers. Tonic water bullshit with Mercury retrograde. Just not a great time for sincerity or clarity. So this is those aspects will impact you, especially Pisces 3 will be impacting you and making it tough for you through the 9th of May. An FYI. Saturday. Sorry, we already went over that. Okay, let's get into, so that's Neptune and Jupiter will somehow impact all of you guys in particular, because you're all Pisces. But in particular, if I've called out your decan, then play special vigilance, because I think you guys will get bombarded with it. Especially those Pisces 3s with that Neptune interactions. There's a lot of crap going on. And it's all going to kind of almost be tempting to you, especially if you're going through something where you don't want to let go of something that you've held on to for a while. Let's get into the decans. Pisces 1. So on, what did I say? I think, so Pisces 1. In Pisces right now, Saturn is at 5 degrees Pisces and Neptune is at 26 degrees Pisces. So Saturn is conjunct your natal suns. This is very formidable, and it will kind of mature you and make you very career oriented or focused. But this week Saturn becomes quincunx to Mars. So it's almost like there's a desire to move forward, or somebody, especially maybe in your family, that wants to move forward or make some kind of progress, but you're sitting there like, rules, regulations, what are you doing, restrictions. So there's going to be a conflict there when it comes to you putting your foot down with somebody that you think is being more impulsive. It may not be that they really are, it's just the way that you're perceiving their behavior. So with Neptune and Pluto, I had written down this note. Pluto is about 35 degrees away from you guys, or 30 degrees away from some of you. And Neptune is about 25 degrees away from some of you. What does that mean? It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And you're conjunct Saturn. So there's a lot of frustrating energy and long term for you guys that is making you kind of cling maybe a little bit too tightly to laws, rules, and regulations and restrictions, because it's the only thing that you feel like you can, or that makes sense to you right now. But it will make you start to feel kind of like you're not yourself anymore. And so digging in and looking for faith, or finding ways to calm your nerves and not be so anxious about the unknown, should be something that you are working on to help balance in yourself for the next year or so. Your natal suns are sextile to the North Node, which means they are trine to the South Node. They're going to be sextile with the Sun until Sunday, April 30th. What does this mean? It means really positive and hopeful with looking forward, having that mentality of feeling really good about the future, or that you've got a good handle on it. It will probably, with the conjunction to Saturn, also deal with doing something more traditional, or feeling better with something that is more pragmatic and measurable, with safe or secure contracts behind it. But that still doesn't, that means progress still. It's like looking towards your future and having a lot of courage and maybe even actual opportunities. So steps toward the future, or at least confidence in knowing your direction. So that could be, generally speaking, what's happening to a lot of you. Things are becoming more clear to you, how you want to move forward, and what your future looks like is coming into a sharper focus. You're also, like I said, trying the South Node. Trying the South Node means that you have confidence in where you've come from, a harmonizing or healing with the past, and coming to terms with how much your past has informed your abilities so that you can move toward your future, how to apply, like getting so comfortable with where you've come from and what you're good at, you're now applying them to your future, leading you into your future. Pisces 2. So Pisces 2, you've kind of got Chiron on your blind side, so it could be that there's a lot of suffering or sadness from the past that's coming up randomly and you don't really understand why. That's why, and the reason always is to help you reincorporate your sense of self-esteem even after you've been through some crap, and understand why you had to go through it and what you can, how you can use it moving forward. So I think that you've been going through it for a while because Chiron has been in the second decan of Aries for a while. So it's kind of blind. It could be feeling like a blind spot somehow, but ultimately that is the goal. The long-term goal of any Chironic interaction is to find a peace through using what you've been through to help others or to inspire others and encourage progress outside of yourself. Mercury retrograde. Your natal suns are sextile to Mercury retrograde, which is conjunct Uranus through Saturday the 29th of April. So this conjunction is going to be extra intense, but sextiles mean opportunities. So if you are getting odd and strange, weird stuff that's coming back to you from the past, opportunities or aha moments or information that you've been waiting for a while, like this is actually going to help you. It's going to be, it could be breakthrough moments for you because the retrograde is bringing you back information or conversations or realizations or ideas that you actually really need and could put to use right now. So that's a bit of a blessing. Your natal suns are trine to Mars and square to Venus at least through Friday, the 28th of April. So trine to Mars all week, which is harmony with movement and motion, maybe even physical harmony, or the fact that you think harmony with keeping your family safe, being proactive with something that has to deal with the fourth house or with Cancerian energy because Mars is in Cancer. But regardless, Mars trine the sun is feeling good about your physical self, feeling a lot of physical stamina, feeling good when you are more physical, finding happiness when you put your energy into actual physical activity, and actually maybe even healing in some ways, maybe feeling a bit better about yourself, your physical presence, and being kind of more courageous and physically present. The square to Venus, however, through Friday does mean that there could be some rough patches or tension that arises when it comes to financial situations or circumstances with friends, value systems with friendships or with other kinds of relationships. They can be really challenged and you could be butting heads with people up through Friday of this week. And for those of you who are oh God, I'm trying to translate this into dates. Generally speaking, Pisces 2 is probably between like February 28th through like March 5th or 6th, somewhere around there. Yeah, and then March 6th or 7th through the 19th, which is usually when Pisces season ends. 19th, 20th is usually Pisces 3. But those are really like iffy dates. So it's those of you who are born toward the end of Pisces 2, so maybe like the 6th or 7th of March, those of you are going to feel the square to Venus all week long. So there's all week long, you're going to feel that tension. You're going to feel those challenges when it comes to, am I valued? You know, do I feel valuable? Do I feel like I'm worth anything? This is Venus square to your natal sun, so it could challenge your self-esteem, or even just bring up challenges that challenge your self-esteem and really frustrate you because you thought you had it all settled and it wasn't. So FYI, Venus is in Gemini, so it could have to do with information that didn't come through or that you needed. It could have to do with conversations or the way somebody is talking to you. It could also have to do with friendships and the way somebody is speaking to you or treating you. FYI, those could be the places of tension where it arises. We have Pisces 3 now. Pisces 3, your natal suns are sextile to Pluto, and this is a long-term aspect, which is extraordinary. It gives you a lot of vitality, stamina, and ruthlessness to just make things happen and not take no for an answer. It means that you are really going through a metamorphosis that is going to help you rise and grow your wings and be able to do more than you ever could before. So this is an extraordinary time for you. By the 28th of this week, so Friday of this week, your natal suns, at least the early Pisces 3s, those of you born maybe around the 8th, 9th, 10th of Pisces, this could be even the 11th, your natal suns are going to be square to Venus, especially you guys at that time. So there's just this sense of, once again, low self-esteem, being compromised, not feeling like you look great or look beautiful. This is when your natal sun is square to Venus. This is not a good time to make any changes to any aesthetics, your body aesthetics, your environment aesthetics, because you're probably reacting instead of really thinking things through and being true to yourself. FYI, this could also mean tensions when it comes to your romantic relationships, just because you don't feel valued, or because Venus is in Gemini, with the way somebody has been speaking to you or misinterpreting what you've said to them. Things like that can arise, and this will go on for about a week, so just be prepared. Understand that. That's why it's going on. 10th through the 15th. Okay, I got it, yeah. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. So, all in all, and okay, so I want to leave you with something like, what can you do when things are frustrating you? You can address the problems. You can address the issues. Anytime there are squares, the challenges are coming up because there's something that needs to be seen, recognized, and understood. You have to learn from a square you have to be open to being educated, and then you can actually pass the test and open up a great opportunity for yourself. So when it comes to that square to Venus, for those of you who are square to Venus this week, there's just a sense of, instead of taking it personally, be objective and take it as a lesson in really your own self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, and why this matters to you so much. And if it does, how can I get better at it? Those kind of energies and objectivity will really help you out a lot. Let me know how this energy is impacting you, how you're experiencing it. Remember to subscribe to the channel, Pisces. I hope you enjoy this information weekly. It comes out every single week. And then definitely come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot and join me for your week ahead tarot card reading. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.